A little background information about me. I have PD, short for panic disorder. For those who don't know what that is, it's a mental illness that causes extreme anxiety, severe panic attacks, and a slew of other problems. I've been suffering from this for over a year now, and while it is getting better, it is still very much difficult to deal with. Please keep this in mind. My husband and I have been married a little over a year now. By the time we were married, I was undergoing medical issues that no doctors could seem to explain. I was having panic attacks all the time, and they would be so severe I would have to be taken to the ER, where they would have to literally sedate me to calm me down. I was also losing weight at an exponential and scary rate, becoming sicker and sicker as time went on. Not even a month after we married, I lost my job and was homebound while my husband worked a second shift, which was 4 p.m. to 3 a.m. He would arrive home around 4 a.m., leaving me alone most of the time. My parents and younger brother lived close by, perhaps a 10-minute drive at most, but now, my mother, who is a school teacher, and my father, who works in a factory, were unable to watch over me. They called as frequently as they could, but that was all they could do. In May, I was told by doctors that I was literally at death's door, and unless something happened quick, my family was going to lose me. I was given medications to help with the panic attacks, to get me to eat, etc. They wanted to hospitalize me, but I refused. My parents decided that when they and my younger brother went to Florida the next month, they were taking me with them. Again, keep in mind, I am both anxious and extremely sick. Around this time, the real issues began. Not with me, but with our neighbors. See, we've never actually met our neighbors personally. My husband lived in the trailer for a month on his own before we were married, and he always said they were odd, but they didn't seem to be of any concern. However, once I came into the picture, that changed. The person who lived in the trailer before us was my cousin Nora, who rented from another cousin and his wife who lived states away. Nora was a huge druggie and drug dealer, so people were used to getting their fixes and drugs at the trailer we now live in. Then, a few months before we moved in, she got in trouble with the law and landed in jail for some time. Our neighbors, who according to our landlords, are drug addicts and raging alcoholics as well, thought that perhaps my cousin Nora was back. However, they never actually saw us. But they did know that someone was in the trailer, since I was sick and my husband would be there to take care of me, as well as get what sleep he could between his odd working hours. My neighbors were active at night, but quiet during the day. Every once in a while, they would do something outside, but it was pretty infrequent. Most activities happened after my husband left for work. My car was still there, which should have told them someone was still home. It started off innocently enough, driving up and down in front of the house, parking on the road directly in front of it, and waiting. They'd honk the horn, but I ignored them. Several times I called my parents, asking them what to do. They said to just ignore them because they likely thought Nora was back. After some time, they should get the hint there were new people and leave us alone. So I did just that, for a time. But when they started driving up the driveway and stopping at the porch, that's when I first called the cops. Unfortunately, I was told that as long as they didn't encroach on my actual property, there was nothing they could do. They advised me to turn on the lights to my house, signifying that someone was home. I couldn't sleep, despite needing to. I had mono, panic disorder, and depression, and I desperately needed sleep. My husband had the weekends off, and you can probably guess, no issues or activity from them during the weekends. It was insane and infuriating. Everyone believed me when I said I was having problems, but there was only so much they could do. My father-in-law brought over one of his 12-gauge shotguns, knowing that I was a good shot. He told me to use it if need be. I'd like to note that I shot trap for years, placing second in districts when I was 18. I chose not to go to state though, as I was already content with the district results. My father-in-law made me promise I would use it if it came to it, so I did. On one of the nights my husband was at work, my body finally shut off, and I was able to fall asleep. However, around 1 a.m., I was woken up by the sound of our neighbor's truck tearing out from behind the trailer. I jumped out, looked outside, and saw them driving out of our driveway. They started speeding up and down the front of the house, and I called the cops again. I called my dad and mom, and my dad came over because I was in full panic attack. My dad called my husband, who came home immediately. There were tire marks in the grass behind the trailer, but they couldn't necessarily prove it was them, despite me describing their truck down to the dents. My dad told the cops this had been going on long enough, but again, not enough evidence or proof to do anything. There was 1 week left. Just one more week until I could go with my family to Florida. But in the meantime, I had to hold out. It was on a night this week that shit hit the fan. I was sitting at home, our two cats asleep rather soundly. I was playing my 3DS, a game called Story of Seasons, a very relaxing game, with Markiplier on the TV for background noise. As usual, my husband was away at work. Then, midnight came, and my cats suddenly woke up and became unglued. They ran to the side door, then to the front door, hissing, their hair on end. They had never behaved that way, so I started to get up to see what they were freaking out about when I heard it. "How are we gonna do this?" I froze. I heard their footsteps as they walked up and down the front porch. I wasn't sure how many there were, but I know for a fact there were at least 3 men outside. My curtains were closed, and most of the lights were off, but the TV was on, and surely they could hear Markiplier's eccentric voice. Maybe, I'm not. The voices faded. They had gotten quieter. I heard their footsteps on the porch again. I grabbed my phone, shakily swiping until I found my dad's number and called him. I remember breathing hard, feeling a panic attack setting in. "Hello?" My dad answered. They're here, I remember sobbing. "On the porch. Dad, they want to get in." "I'm on my way. Call the cops." I hung up, then heard them talking amongst themselves about how they wanted to break in, what stuff they wanted, etc. I ran into the bedroom, grabbed the 12-gauge, opened the chamber to see it fully loaded, and called the cops. I left the lights off. I decided I was going to have them caught this time. I wasn't going to run them off. Dispatch answered, and I told them what was going on. As sick as I was, I managed to hold that shotgun to my shoulder, pointed at the door, remembering everything my dad taught me about shooting while I was a hunter and when I shot trap. But I was still scared out of my mind. Somehow, I kept my panic attack down, but I was still breathing hard. "Calm your breathing, hun. You said they're outside?" the dispatcher said. "Yes. I heard one say they heard me. Then the other one said that it wouldn't be a problem. Oh my God." "They're coming, sweetie. I promise," he replied. "I'm armed." "Excuse me?" "I'm armed," I yelled, hoping that they'd hear. "With what, sweetheart?" 12-gauge. They want to hurt me. I'm not going to let them." "She's armed," I heard him tell the police, who I suppose were on their way. I heard one of the guys outside say, "Armed?" Then silence. "Ma'am?" I can't. I heard their footsteps leaving, then saw the lights to my dad's truck. My dad's here. I lowered the shotgun and ran outside, my dad and younger brother running out of the truck. My dad had the Judge in his hand, which is a pistol that shoots 12-gauge rounds and feels like a freaking hand cannon. My younger brother was armed with a knife. It's my dad and brother. They're armed too. Okay, what of the men? The dispatcher replied. I don't see them. When the cops get there, disarm yourselves, okay? I thanked the dispatcher for everything, and about this time, the cops pulled up. I told my dad and younger brother to disarm, so they put their weapons in the truck while I took my gun inside and sat in the kitchen on top of our dinner table. My dad told me to get back in the house, and for my younger brother to go with me. As soon as I stepped inside, the panic attack hit. My dad came inside for a moment and hugged me, telling me how brave I had been, especially for holding it as long as I did. As he went back outside, I was shaking, crying, and gasping for breath. The cops ended up finding footprints and an area on the porch where the man had tried to break in at one point. But the man had scattered, leaving it difficult for the cops to trace exactly where they came from. My dad told them it was the neighbors. My landlords called too, and told the cops it was more than likely their neighbors as well, who had apparently also been giving my cousin who lives up the road a difficult time. The cops noticed some of the footprints went into the neighbor's yard, but of course, they weren't home. I remember my dad and younger brother standing outside my neighbor's residence just as the cops pulled up, yelling as loudly as they could that they would drop them if they ever so much saw them around me again. Enough is enough, my dad yelled over and over. My daughter is sick. She needs to rest. Leave her the hell alone, or I'll drop your ass, I swear to God. It was then I noticed he was crying. My dad isn't the type of person to do that. My whole life, I have seen my dad cry maybe a handful of times, like when he talked about his late father, or when my mom's mom died, or when the doctors told me I was on death's door, or when my younger brother was born. My dad had been scared that he wouldn't get there in time, and maybe, just maybe, I would hesitate to protect myself. But I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to let them get away with it anymore. That night, my husband came home from work and hugged me so tightly, I thought my lungs would burst. My younger brother texted him what was going on, but reassured him I was okay. A week later, as planned, I went to Florida. Time went on, and I am still getting better. As for my neighbors, I never had problems from them again. I'm not sure if it was the cops actually going to their house, or if it was my dad and younger brother threatening them, or maybe it was me, overhearing me saying that I was armed. I don't know, and I don't care. They're still there, but I know they won't do anything ever again.